Good morning, grade 10s. I hope you guys all had a great weekend and that you're keeping healthy and safe. Today we are going to carry on with functions, but before you watch the video, please would you go to your maths teams. If you look under files, you will see there's a folder called lesson notes. Please download the notes for today. You will see it is dated 18th and 19th of May. Please would you read through those notes, make summaries in your workbook, and once you have read through those notes and made your summaries, then please come and watch the video. The reason being is that you will see the lesson is split over 2 days because the homework activity is quite long. So what I'm going to actually be doing is I'm going to do some of the examples from your homework with you just to get you on the right track and make sure that you know what you're doing. All right, so please go have a read through the notes and then come back and watch the video.
Okay, grade 10, so I'm looking at exercise 1 on page 126. Question 2 is quite straightforward, so I'm going to skip ahead to question 3. You will see for question 3, they tell you that the f of x is equal to 2x squared minus x plus 1. And I've chosen 4 to do from question 3. And for each one, what they want you to do is to replace x with whatever they have told you. So for the first one, 3a, they've asked you to work out the f of 1. So what they want you to do is they want you to replace the x in this function with a 1. So it's in essence basically just substitution. So what we're going to do is wherever we see an x, we are going to replace it with a 1. So we're going to say the f of 1 is equal to, and then you would say 2, instead of x, you're going to replace it with a 1, close bracket, squared, minus, instead of x, you're going to replace it with a 1, plus 1. And from there, we're just going to solve. We know that 1 squared is 1, 2 times 1 is 2, minus 1, plus 1. So we know that 2 minus 1 is 1, 1 plus 1 is 2, and we get our answer to be 2. Pretty straightforward. The next one, if we look, 3g, they've asked us to work out the f of a. So what they want us to do is wherever we see an x, they want us to replace it with an a. So exactly like the first one we did, we're going to say 2, instead of x, I'm going to put an a, close bracket, squared, minus, instead of x, I'm going to put an a, plus 1. And I've got a squared, or a times a, which gives me a squared, and 2 times a squared gives me 2a squared, minus a, plus 1. And you can see there's no like terms there, so we can't take that any further. Okay, then moving on to question number 3h. They want us to work out the f of 2x. So what they want us to do is wherever we see a x, they want us to replace it with a 2x. So just like we did in the previous ones, I'm going to say 2. Remember to put it in a bracket. 2x, close bracket, squared, minus, in brackets, 2x plus 1. And from there, what we are going to do is we are going to first of all get rid of this bracket here. So we're going to say 2x squared. So I'm going to leave the 2 for now. 2x times 2x, you should agree, gives you 4x squared minus 2x plus 1. I could get rid of that bracket there because I already put in the negative. And from there, I've got 2 times 4x squared gives me 8x squared minus 2x plus 1. And you can see there's no like terms there, so I cannot take it any further. So my f of 2x would be equal to 8x squared minus 2x plus 1. Moving on to number 3L. You can see now they've asked us to work out the f of x minus 1. So what we're going to do is we're going to replace the x with an x minus 1. So we're going to have 2 in brackets x minus 1 close bracket squared minus in brackets x minus 1 plus 1. So the first thing you should see here is that I've got x minus 1 squared. So it's going to be a bracket times a bracket. So we're going to FOIL. So I'm going to leave my 2 as it is for now. I'm just going to rewrite this out so it makes it easier to FOIL. And then over here I can actually get rid of this bracket now. So I'm going to say negative times x gives me negative x. Negative times negative 1 gives me positive 1. And then I've got positive 1 there. So I've done the second part. Now I'm going to FOIL here. So I've got 2 x times x is x squared. X times negative 1 is negative x. Negative 1 times x is negative x. Negative 1 times negative 1 is positive 1. And then I've got minus x. 1 plus 1 is 2. From there I'm going to simplify inside. You can see I am doing every step here. You guys can skip steps if you want to. I'm just doing the long way so that you can see exactly how I'm doing it. Okay, so I'm going to simplify inside my bracket. Negative x minus x gives me negative 2x plus 1 minus x plus 2. And now I'm going to use my distributive law to bring that 2 in. So 2 times x squared is 2x squared. 2 times negative 2x is negative 4x. 2 times 1 is 2 minus x plus 2. And now I'm just going to simplify my like terms. So there's no other x squared, so it would stay 2x squared. I've got negative 4x minus x gives me negative 5x. And I've got 2 plus 2 gives me 4. So therefore, the f of x minus 1 would be equal to 2x squared minus 5x plus 4. Right, now I'm going to move on to question 4. Now question 4 is slightly different in the sense that they tell you the g of x is x squared minus 5. Now previously what we would have had to do is they would have asked us to work out, for example, the g of 3. And you would have replaced an x with a 3 and you would have worked out what the g of x is. Now what they've actually done is they've given us the value of g of x. So they've told us that that over there is equal to 4 and they want us to calculate x. So it's just basic equations that we're going to be doing now. So they've told us that g of x is 4, so I can replace that whole thing with a 4. So I'm going to say 4 is equal to x squared minus 5. Okay, so I've replaced that whole g of x with a 4. So I've said 4 is equal to x squared minus 5. And you should notice in this equation I have an x squared, which should automatically make you think that it is a quadratic equation. Because it is a quadratic equation, I need to make it equal to 0. So what I want to do is get rid of that 4. It's positive 4, so to get rid of it, I'm going to minus 4. And what I do to the one side, I do to the other. So I get 0 is equal to x squared. Negative 5 minus 4 gives me negative 9. Now you should see that you have a quadratic equation, so you've made it equal to 0. The next thing you should remember about quadratic equations is that you're going to factorize. So we're going to go through our steps. Can I do a common factor? No. Is it a difference of 2 squares? And yes, you can see it is a difference of 2 squares. So I'm going to factorize. 0 is equal to difference of 2 squares. I have my 2 brackets. Positive minus. I say the root of x squared gives me x and x. And the root of 9 gives me 3 and 3. And so therefore, x is equal to negative 3 or x is equal to positive 3. And those are my 2 possible values of x. And you should know, because it's a quadratic equation, x squared means I will have 2 solutions for x. Okay, so that was 4a. And then the last one I'm going to do with you is 4b, and it's very similar to 4a, except that they tell you the g of x is equal to 20. So instead of saying the g of x is equal to x squared minus 5, I'm now going to replace the g of x over there with a 20. So I'm going to say 20 is equal to x squared minus 5. Okay, and from there, same thing, you should see you've got an x squared, which means it is a quadratic equation. So with a quadratic equation, we make it equal to 0. So that 20 is positive 20. To get rid of it, I'm going to minus 20. What I do to the one side, I must do to the other. Those cancel out, and I can now make my equation equal to 0 is equal to x squared. Negative 5 minus 20 gives me negative 25. From there, you would know you need to factorize. So we're going to go through our steps. Is it a common factor? No. Is it a difference of two squares? Yes, it is. I'm going to say 0 is equal to my two brackets, positive, negative. The root of x squared is x and x. The root of 25 is 5 and 5. And therefore, I can say that x is equal to negative 5, or x is equal to positive 5. And those are my two solutions for 4b.
Okay, grade 10s, moving on to your homework activity. You will see the lesson is split up for today and for tomorrow. The reason is because the homework activity is quite long, so do some of it today, do some of it tomorrow, and the questions that you're going to do, it's exercise 1 on page 126, question 2, question 3, and question 4. Now you would have seen I've done a couple of them with you, so the ones that I've done, just rewrite into your book and just make sure you do the others. If you get stuck or if you need a bit of help, please do not hesitate to contact your teachers. That's what we're here for, to help you guys. And yeah, enjoy the rest of your day, and I will chat to you again on Wednesday.